So basically, you're arguing that that law, there is space in religion itself, in Islam itself, for in this case, for human beings to step in and keep building and evolving law as it is needed to govern different communities. Now, let's start with a very interesting question. When the state of Uttarakhand took an initiative on the Uniform Civil Code, you welcomed it, right? Why did you welcome it?
I welcomed it because, if I have to blame somebody for the delay in the enactment of Uniform Civil Code, it won't be judiciary. In fact, judiciary was unnecessarily too active, and at times their observations were not right. It is the parliament which has made some laws, some reforms in personal law. So you had the Sharia Act, you had the Dissolution of Muslim Marriage Act, you have the 1986 Act. Recently, you saw the triple divorce law. So there has been legislative activity in terms of reforms. In fact, to believe that the entire Muslim personal law is unreformed and uncodified is wrong. Part of it is codified and a statutory law, and part of it is uncodified. It is the executive or the government which has not done any endeavor whatsoever. I can recall only Mrs. Gandhi in 1971 addressing the All India Congress Committee in Ahmedabad, urging his party and the people of the country to think of Uniform Civil Code. But thereafter, the governments have not really taken any substantive step. There is no draft available to us to debate. And therefore, when Uttarakhand Chief Minister on the last day of the campaign, he said that if we are voted to power, we would set up a committee of experts. I welcomed it. Personally, Barkha, I feel that law reform should not be seen in the context of electoral politics. I have this problem even today. I had this problem with number of other states. But post that constitution of committee, if you look at the composition, I have said that the composition is uninspiring. You have bureaucrats there, you have one retired high court judge, and you don't have any personal law expert of different communities. So such a committee is useless. It is not going to inspire anybody.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you, let me correct me if I don't understand you accurately, but here's what I understand. You are saying that the Uniform Civil Code has been treated as a bogey. No one has ever actually placed in the public domain a draft that can be discussed. You are saying that the change cannot come top down from the judiciary, from the Supreme Court, that the change should come through the legislative assemblies, maybe, if at all, and that those who are tasked to discuss this must reflect the very pluralism that they're supposed to preserve. And the most important point that you're making is that there is no contradiction between pluralism of religion and a uniform civil code. In other words, Article 25 that gives every Indian a fundamental right to profess and propagate your faith is not at odds with a uniform civil code in principle.
No, Barkha, my position as a constitutional law teacher, it is a little difficult to understand and nuance. On the one hand, I don't see much merit in universal legalism. As someone who teaches diversity and diversity law, I see that legal pluralism is an equally good tradition. Therefore, I'm not for one
Why do you
code
say
which
that?
will. Yeah, so you can have multiple codes. Yeah, you can
Can I
have
hold you
multiple.
there?
Yeah.
Can I hold you there? Because as a woman, as a feminist, my first rebuttal to you would be, why do you support legal pluralism? Aren't there some universal principles, for example, that should apply to the principles of gender justice? And the Muslims are not the only community that have had to battle this. We've had the Sabrimala debate, where the Supreme Court had to review its own verdict on allowing menstruating women inside the Lord Ayappa shrine. So here's my question: when you say you're not a fan of legal, a kind of one
Universal
dimension to
legalism. Yeah.
yeah, universal legalism, how do you ensure a framework for gender equality then?
Yeah, that's right. That is the difficulty, that this whole idea of universality of human rights makes room for cultural relativism. Human rights themselves provide for cultural relativism. Now, while providing for cultural relativism, you cannot be discriminatory. Therefore, the gender justice aspect has to be taken care of. While I'm for legal pluralism, therefore, I'm saying you don't need one code. So you may have one code on marriage, one code on divorce, one code on inheritance. You can have multiple codes. And I have repeatedly argued in my articles that for me, uniformity in itself is not something very great. Unity is far more important. That's why when Ambedkar was saying that if any government provokes Muslims with the implementation of a uniform civil code when they are not yet ready for it, it would be a mad government. Now, what I would say that you should have a just code. And what is a just code for me, which is far more important than a uniform code? You may have multiple laws. If you have 5 codes, I don't mind them. But all 5 codes must be consistent with the constitutional ideal of gender justice and substantive equality. I would not accept the formal equality. You need to have substantive equality. So just code to me is far more important. In any case, right to equality, as Barkha, itself says that unlikes are not to be treated alike. Likes are to be treated alike. And therefore, the law within the class has to be same. But having said that, there is absolutely no to have laws which are discriminatory. And that's why rather than aiming to have a uniform civil code, we must ensure the discriminatory provisions of all laws, whether they are secular laws or religious laws. You have number of secular laws which are discriminatory.
So you are saying that rather than chase the concept of a uniform code, personal laws can be reformed in all communities to bring them to a level where they uphold the essential fundamental principles of equality. So you would rather go the route of modernizing and reforming personal law rather than having a single uniform code. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Because even in criminal law, Barkha, you don't have a single law. The moment you have federalism and you have 3 lists, your constitution itself is permitting states to enact laws. Now, many people have asked, how come Uttarakhand go for uniform civil code? Personal law is there in the concurrent list, entry number 5. And therefore, both center and state can make laws. In fact, it is really surprising that or Uttarakhand, in election, they are promising a uniform civil code. Now, if you look at Article 44, it is saying state shall endeavor to have uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. How can Uttarakhand pass a law which will be applicable throughout the territory of India? So it was not a uniform civil code, but they were playing to the gallery. It was an electoral promise meant for a particular constituency, and then they may get some votes out of that. That's okay. But what I'm trying to say that it is possible to have multiple codes. Even in our criminal law, where you have Indian Penal Code, many states have made amendments. In Code of Criminal Procedure, in some states you will have anticipatory bail. In other states you will not have it. In Punjab, for instance, for blasphemy, there is no one even uniform criminal law. States already in federalism have a right to legislate on the subjects which are given in the state list and which are given in the concurrent list. So federalism does not envisage a single law. You are in United States right now. Now each state has a different criminal law and each state has a different constitution. And that has not made America a weak nation. Initially, this whole uniform civil code debate was in the context of gender justice. Then it was hijacked and cultural identity came in and national integration came in. And then subsequently when Nehru brought in Hindu Code Bill, then the Hindu conservatives, to install the Hindu Code Bill, they said first bring the uniform civil code.